What's going on, everyone? Today I'm going to be installing the Striker Vivid 5CV locator with the transducer. We're going to upgrade from this old ancient thing and this. Definitely getting pretty old, so let's get this mounted up. These are all the tools you're going to need to do this job. A Phillips screwdriver / flathead screwdriver. This 11-in-1 works perfect for this job. If you need to do butt connections on your wires for your locator, you will need either a crimp, wire splicing, anything of this nature. Crescent wrench was what I needed to get my old locator off, or my old transducer off, so you may not need this just in case. Your wire snips to cut your cable ties whenever you are done tying up your wire. Electrical tape to ensure that you're waterproofing your electrical connections. And then obviously your zip ties to secure your wire. That way it don't get stuck in your prop. What you'll need is one of these mounts that comes with the package, the transducer that comes with this package, your locator bracket, your mounting screws, and your mounting screws to put the locator onto the bracket. As well as in that box comes the cable to hook it up. So I'm going to be installing mine with power cables already ran over here. Since I had the existing locator already, I don't have to run power wires. So if you do have to run power wires, this is not the video for you. Go find out how to do that and come back to here. All right, so if you do have those power wires, you should have 2 wires coming to your existing locator. So coming out of those will be a hot wire and a ground wire. With the new harness that comes here, you will have 4 wires, this blue and brown, red and black. The red one has a fusible link in the wire. So you will hook that up to one of your wires, which is going to be your ground wire. And then your hot wire is going to hook up to the black, going straight into this harness, which will then plug into your locator later on. The blue and brown wires are communicating wires for if you have other Garmin products that you want to hook together with it. In this case, I'm not going to be, so these wires will not be used. So I hooked my wires via butt connect and taped them up to make sure they are waterproof. So now my wire is ran, so let's go ahead and get this mounted and then we'll get everything hooked up. So before I tuck all these wires in, I did tape up my 2 communicating wires. I just looped it over and taped the end pretty much to itself, just so there's no shorting or anything, just for safety precautions to avoid any issues down the road. I just taped them up. If you have small enough wire nuts, you can wire nut them. These are pretty small wires though, so you'd have to have a really small wire nut. So I just taped mine off, that way I don't touch nothing inside of my compartment. Alrighty, I got it mounted up. So I ran my cord out over here, just in this corner, that way it don't pinch it. The bracket is super easy to mount up. It's just 4 screws, just mount it up, just drill it in, should be all good. So now I have my power cord there, that mounted. Make sure it's sitting well and flush to wherever you want it, and also make sure your trolling motor does not hit it whenever it drops down. Make sure it's in a good location for that. Now your next step is putting your Garmin locator into the mount. You just slide it in between the 2 brackets, tighten down these screws, that way now your mount pivots. Whenever you're ready, you just lock them in by tightening them in. So once you take your transducer off that was on from before, whether it be here or on here in my case, your wire should be running up along the trolling motor shaft, down through that cord into your locator. They should just be on there with zip ties or electrical tape, depending on whoever installed it. Mine were a little bit of both. So I got them trimmed off, cleaned up, so now my trolling motor is empty. So now let's get this mounted up. So for this step, we are going to need the transducer itself, which the cord is already hooked up to it, so super easy. The transducer bracket, which comes with this locator, and some heavy duty zip ties to get that wire all cleaned up and out of the way to make sure your prop don't eat up your new wire. Inside your box, you'll have one of these little packages with 5 little screws as well as 5 locking washers. The camera will zoom in. That is what you're going to use to mount the transducer bracket onto your transducer. Transducer bracket literally just mounts up and the wire runs out of here. All the holes match up. So once we get this all mounted up, we'll come back. After you got all the screws mounted in there, you will need to take the hose clamp that comes with this. The hose clamp you will open up, take it completely apart, and it is going to slide into this hole right here, out of this hole. That is what's going to strap the transducer onto the bottom of your trolling motor. You're going to wrap it around the shaft of the trolling motor, and that's what will hold it on. Alrighty, so after looking at mine a little bit more, I'm going to mount mine on this back hole back here. Luckily, Garmin thinks about this, and they put 3 different holes in it here, so you know which one you can use. Mine, I'm going to use mine in the back. That way it is behind the shaft. That way now this can't slide forward. Whereas here, it could just probably slide off. So now it is protected by this bar. So now it cannot go anywhere. Just make sure it's nice and tight on there. When I'm finished, I'm going to move this behind this bar. That way, whenever you're coming through the weeds and everything, this don't get caught up on any weeds. The bar can kind of split that. So now we're going to start by taking the wire that goes to the transducer and running it up the shaft of the trolling motor via zip ties. I'm going to go about every 8 inches, every 6 inches or so, and zip tie it down. That way I have no loose cable flopping anywhere that it could get stuck in my prop. So I got my transducer now ran with the wire zip tied, like I said, about every 6 to 8 inches or so. Just making sure that there is no flopping around cord or anything. It's gonna get ripped off or rip my transducer off. Coming up here, through here, down, ran it down here, and then I hooked the power wire and the transducer wire together and just kind of tucked it under my locator. That way it's not blowing around nowhere. I'm gonna go ahead and trim off the tabs, making sure to cut them flush or you will cut yourself on these. So make sure you cut them flush and then we should be about good to go. Now you have a working locator that now runs off a transducer and you're all good to go.